get myself into a more comfortable position here. Um, I wanted to do a live stream, but I've had a really, really kind of really rough day. So I don't really know if, well, when I say rough, I don't mean like, you know, someone in my family died rough or uh, my dog died rough or anybody died that I'm familiar with rough, but just just I could go into detail about it, but it would be boring. So so I don't think I'm going to do that. Case of the Mondays. Yep, that's right. You got me. Hi Jonathan. Hi Armored Ghost. Normally I have some spiel in mind, and I did I was thinking about this whole Fed thing, about how we're all, you know, we've all become aware that the Feds are the enemies, and I guess that's always been the case, hasn't it? I guess to an extent, to one extent or other, the Feds have always been our our enemies. I mean, there are some good Feds out there, but I think for the most part, we can agree that the Feds are not cool, especially not the Feds who pretend to be one of us, right? Uh, and we're always on the lookout. We're always like that's what they've got us doing. They've got us like saying, "I bet he's a Fed. He is a Fed. He totally looks like a Fed to me." Um, there's I don't think it seems like this has reached a zenith. It seems like this whole find the Fed, this whole you know searching out the Fed, seeking the Fed, uh, has kind of reached this fever pitch now. Um, if you're somebody who's not in the mainstream way of thinking, you know that they're out there, um, and you know that part of their mo is to pretend to be one of us. That's how they operate. That's how they gather intelligence. And to a degree, there's nothing like that's just the way the game is played, right? Uh, so I mean, to a point, I can understand that, but I think where it gets really insidious is when you've got, and they do this too, when you've got Feds out there who are deliberately steering things in one direction or another, who are uh, trying to create um, who are trying to create drama, trying to create uh, rivalries, trying to create division. Uh, I I I mean, there are like there's so many there's so many well, I shouldn't say there's so many, but there are people out there who are saying like who who echo all the things that the Feds, who echo all the things that the man tells us. But they say, but actually, I'm you know I'm a dissident just like you. But you know what? Uh, that masking stuff, that was right. We should have done that, and the injections, that was right. We should have done that. And Ukraine bumper sticker all the way, yes sir. And I don't know, whatever the hell else. Um, the election wasn't rigged. Come on. Um, you know, you've got some people just towing the line, uh, but it's like like they set themselves up as the alternative to the alternative. But I think they're just feds, you know, in such deep cover that they're that they come out the other side as feds, you know. Um, and then you've got the ones who just like always like I don't know the like there's that group who all wear who all go in, they all get in rider vans and change into uh like gear. They get geared up and they come out and wearing helmets and masks over their faces. I can't think of their names right now. They marched around the mall in Washington D.C. once, um, and it's just. I mean, I've had I to me that's like, what are you guys doing? What's the point of all this? What's this? How is this supposed to win hearts and minds? What's going on here? Uh, you know, you're trying to look. This is going the the route of the the Hollywood Nazi route. Uh, this is like the even though they're not holding swastika flags or doing anything that blatant. It's like this just they're paramilitary and you know looking scary uh, and trotting around in formation, and it's just like what the hell is this all about? You know, um, I mean, it's a good show. It's like okay if you want to. Yeah, it makes it when it comes to theatrics, it's if it's about if you want to talk street theater, then then there you go. They've got that going for them. But beyond that, like what's the point? And this is just going to be a rambly little canter here on my part. I don't really know if I've got much to say. I'm sort of finding what I have to say as I go along. Um, because like I said, I kind of got this was one of those days where I just it was like uh, sometimes you own the day and sometimes the day owns you. This was the latter. This was the latter for me. So but I guess I'm just generally, even though I'm really kind of ill-equipped to do this live cast, um, I said I would do it, so I felt that I really ought to show up uh, for for everybody who comes around and who seems to find watching me live to be such a uniquely interesting thing to do. Because you're actually seeing me live. It's not rehearsed. What you see is what you get. If I mess up here, if I misspeak, uh, if I utter some slur by accident, then I can't just go back and bleep it out. It's like it's there. It's hot. Or if I it's actually it's funnier to think if I don't utter some slur by accident because people want me to utter slurs, but if I refrain from uttering some slur, they're like, why isn't he saying the slurs that we're expecting him to say? That would be that would be so embarrassing if I were to not utter at least a few racial and ethnic slurs on these live casts. So, like the what is the not to sound like a stupid stand-up comedian, But since I'm kind of half delirious right now, what is the deal with these feds? Um, I have to say there's a certain fascination about them because although of course they are loathsome, um, they always have us pointing at each other. It's like that Spider-Man cartoon where there's three Spider-Men and they're all pointing their fingers. You know that meme with the three Spider-Men and they're all pointing their fingers one at the other at the other. It's like you're the Fed. No, you're the Fed. That's kind of they have us playing that kind of game, and I noticed that like um I noticed that um with lots of the people on the uh gosh, what do I call them? It seems like the term truther has kind of come and gone, has run its course. But conspiracy theorist, that's like something you always have to put quotes around because that's usually a word, that's usually the term that they're using to make fun of you. Um, I would say alternative people who have alternative explanations to events, perhaps. But that's too unwieldy to put it that way. Uh, but you know who I'm talking about. I noticed that when there were like little differences in opinion, like um like if everybody agrees that the official 9/11 story is bunk, everybody can see that it's bunk, that it's wrong, that it couldn't have happened the way they said it happened. But some people say it was an exotic, what do they say, a Mountain Dew, a DEW, direct energy weapon. Um, some people say it's that, and others say no, uh, it's this other thing. It's the I was going to it's the nanos, the nano. God, I can't remember right now. The nanobots. It's the means by which they took the towers down. Anyway, everybody agrees that the official story is wrong, but if you say no, they came down because of this, and other people say no, they came down because of this, then they're calling each other shills and feds, and you got the people who believe nothing hit the towers, no planes, and then there's people who believe that there were planes, and then they're calling each other feds and shills and stuff, and it's just it gets kind of out of hand. Um, it's a very fractious thing, and it doesn't really help like PR wise. I'll just say it. I'll put it that way. Not that I'm someone that you would turn to for PR advice, but if the idea is to convince people, to show people that you know we're not uh, we're not crazy. Uh, we're not just these fanatical, argumentative pains in the ass. That we're reasonable people who point out reasonable things, and but they go online and see, oh yeah, you think it was an energy weapon, you're just a shill. Or oh, you think it came down because of this reason, you're just a shill. Um, there can be honest disagreement. There can be honest disagreement about things, and that goes for anything else as well. Um, let me see what anybody's got to say yet. Let's see. Okay, so the Mondays. Hi, fellow low status dude. Hi, Jonathan. Synchronicity is amazing. I didn't like my Monday either. Yep. Just like Garfield. Just like Garfield, my friends. Uh, yes, we've always been at war with Washington Garcia. Yes, absolutely. Is Colin Liddell a Fed? I was thinking about that question, Jonathan. I was thinking about that question just today because I had to do a lot of walking today. I was doing a lot of walking around, walking from place to place. Um, I'm not gonna. I won't. There's nothing wrong with my vehicle. It didn't break down or anything, but the the circumstances necessitated walking when you're walking from place to place. I tend to like to walk, but this involved more walking than usual, and your mind wanders when you're walking. And I sort of thought to myself, is Colin like this whole abrupt uh, switcheroo, where suddenly it's Russia. Um, it's a little baffling. I still think with Carl, my best bet is that my best bet is spite, and I've said this before. I think he is a man who is animated by spite. His spitefulness pushes him to take contrarian positions, and so I think he saw that the um, dissident right was in general going more in one direction than the other, and this this is right around the start of the the invasion of Iraq by Russia. He was this was when he just started really banking hard on this whole Russia, everything's Russia. Where he starts sounding like some fucking neolib uh, person, um, saying spouting the same kind of rhetoric that you hear from them. Uh, Parrot Front. That's not what they're called. Is it a Patriot Front? Yeah. Is that what you say? Parrot. Is that what they're called? Parrot Front. Yeah. Tickets to Andy Live start at 8. No, this is free, baby. This is absolutely free. But, however, thanks for mentioning it. You can purchase my extended essay, Havoc, the how a demon entered the post Cold War world, uh, or how the post war world uh, gave unleashed a demon, or something like that. I can't remember my convoluted title, but you can find it on my Substack page. Um, Trust only my family and Andy. Thank you. Um, Andy for propaganda minister. Um, Talk about the post Cold War beginning. Oh, the post Cold War, yeah. Um, uh, yes, well, the post Cold War. I mean, I guess we're sort of in a new Cold War now, aren't we? Uh, we're in a post Cold War Cold War. Uh, it never ends, does it? It always just goes round and round in cycles. Nothing ever really ends. It's like a big merry-go-round, and I want to get off. I just want to get off sometimes. Or it's not that I want to. It's not that makes it sound a little more negative than I mean it to. It's just I want to be bound for some destination. I don't want to just keep going round and round and round. And I don't see how anybody who who watches politics, who's like a political pundit. I don't see how anybody can think to themselves, we're not just going around and round and round in circles over and over and over and over and over again. Now things are worse. Now, I mean, like it does. It sometimes it changes, and that sometimes it gets worse. Uh, the sticking with the merry-go-round metaphor. Sometimes the merry-go-round gets a little faster and and a little bit more unsteady, and it's not as much. And you're starting to get nauseous because it's going at speeds it's not supposed to. You didn't think it was going to go at. Um, but there's got to be a way off that thing. I mean, short of death, there's got to be a way to get off. Uh, okay, I'm gonna be a little bit more uh, attentive to your comments as they come because, as I said, I don't have as much of a spiel as I normally have for these live casts. So Leah says, I have had a hunch since I was little. It's all scripted. Really, how little were you when you got that hunch? Because that's a pretty profound, like to just think. If you're just like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, and you're watching. You say it's when you're little. That's what makes me think. If you say when you were young, I would think maybe a little bit older, maybe 15, 16, 17, which I could more see. But if you're just a little kid watching the political scene and you just think, you know what? I bet they're just reading their lines. And that's pretty impressive. You were watching, yeah, I was watching the news, maybe 10. I remember when the news kind of had a fascination for me. I think when I was growing up, when I was a kid, news was just boring. It was like, oh, the news is on. I don't want to like. I'm going to leave the room now. My show is over, and now Tom Brokaw is on to show my age. uh, and dun 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 dun, and the pompous music is playing, and yeah, I'm okay. Now it's stuff I don't care about. Then it was sort of there was a time when the news was interesting. It was like kind of almost a means of escape. And I see other comments. I'll get back to them in a second. But it was like there was a time when I could watch the news and it would help me get out of like escape from I don't know the doldrums of my life or the anxieties of my immediate life. And this is like adolescence, late adolescence, where even though the news was full of uh, tragedy and horror, it was still like a kind of something that was just happening. It didn't seem real, so it was something I could just sort of be, immerse myself in for a little while. And I remember like presidential races. I think like when I was 17, it was 1988. I was 17, and I had my like my first sort of big existential crisis, uh, where I where I like was like, why are we here? What does it mean to be alive? I could die any second. Uh, what's going on? And just had this whole feeling of discombobulation, and like it all just hit me at once at the age of 17. Um, and and I remember that was during 1988. I remember like actually paying attention to the the uh, the political races that were happening at the time because it was a comfort to get out of my anxiety and just watch all these stupid clods just do their just get on TV and speak their lines, you know, stand up at their podia, podia, podiums. I don't know, podiums. I think, and just do their thing, and like it was just sort of. I mean, even at the time, it was. I think that's something I would say I have in common with you, Leah. Uh, Yeah, that's something that I would say that I can understand. Is that I um it was yeah, I was aware, I think, from an early age that it wasn't really that, like, come on, what really changes? Does it really matter who gets elected and who doesn't? What's like, they want us to care about that crap, but it's not really that important because it's still gonna be what it's always been. I actually had that sense. So that might be that's not exactly like thinking that everything is scripted, but maybe that's what you meant when you said that you thought everything was scripted. I don't know. Let me just look at what else is here. It's very contrived. Same thing in church. We've all kind of missed the point. 41. Remember, okay. Broken systems. Yep. Um, you're 41, so yeah, you were okay. Yeah, so that was around. So you were that was around the same time you were watching TV at age 10, and I was watching at age 17. Even though I'm actually 52, so but so you were maybe a little younger than 10, but you were still watching this useless menagerie that still had this kind of uh, I don't know. It had this entertainment factor. It was like, yeah, I think there is something about like, and since we're entering, God help us, another election year. There is something like about this whole like, oh well, you've got to solidify your, sir. You've got to like these shows that are about politics that are supposed to be really hard hitting, where like I can't think of what is the show, the Aaron Sorkin show that it's so renowned, like everybody thinks the dialogue is so great, and it's just like, sir, you've got to, okay, they're walking down the hallway, having a have having this rushed conversation, and everything's very intense, and it's like, you know you've our polling shows that you're going down amongst the women between 35 and 49, um, who are shorter than 5'6". You've got to shore up that important vote. So you've got to hit this issue hard. The next, um, and like all these, like the that those Aaron Sorkin shows with the dial with that snappy dialogue, and people walking down hallways, and wearing their suits, and talking to their advisors and stuff. It's just like, oh my gosh, like what ultimately do we get out of all of that? What um and I mean, they still try to convince us even now. They try to convince us that it's really important, and it's something, and more than ever, more now than they used to. More now. uh like, it was easier to ignore it if you wanted to, back in 1988 or so, thereabouts. Um, it's harder to ignore it now because it's everywhere, because everybody's just so keyed up about everything. Like they're just uh, everybody's on like they're just they're trying to aggravate everyone. They're trying to just whoever you are, they're trying to reach out and like pluck on your nerves and play you and get you pulled into this thing. You know, every time I try to get out, they keep pulling me back in. It's that sort of feeling. Um, uh, but when you think about it, it's like, okay, so even if like, and I don't think for a second, I don't believe for a second that it's not rigged. But even if it weren't rigged, even if we grant that it's not rigged, you know, we're supposed to think that getting going up on TV and saying the right things at the right time and saying it in the right way is just that's statesman. That's statesmanship. That's statescraft. No, no. That's just you playing this ridiculous game. That's just like this popularity contest. Um, Trying to get enough people to like you at the right time. That's the thing. You don't even have to you don't even have to get them to like you forever. Or you don't even have to get them to like if they if they don't like you after election day, that's fine. If they voted for you on election day, but then afterwards they don't like you, well, too late. They already voted for you. So there's something funny to me about that. Like, oh, it's election day, so now it really counts, and so people vote again. Putting aside the fact that it's no doubt rigged, putting all that aside, um, uh, say that the vote count is actually genuine. Well, it's just that it's the vote count for that one day. It's what people are feeling on that one day. And a lot of people, there's a lot of people who are just like, who just make up their minds at the last minute because, and that's just how they feel on that day. If election day had been, 6 days later, it might have been totally different. But because it's that day, that's supposed to count more. Um, it's so dumb, but it's best not to take it too seriously. But and it's hard to take it seriously. But I mean, it's harder now to take it seriously because it's so ridiculous. It's gotten more ridiculous. It's gotten more just contrived and, as you say, and more out there and more crazy and more ups. You just uh, more obviously, transparently, unreal. But now everybody's so keyed up. Everybody's so you know, uh, like on pins and needles. Everybody's like getting offended and I was it was so exhausting. This is like a little bit of a tangent that I'm going to get off on now, and then I'm going to look back on and see what the new comments are. But I just finished watching a video that was on the gram, and it was like I'm back on the gram, by the way, under an assumed name, at least for now. Um, and So I was watching this video, and it was this really adorable video showing these little kids, like a little kid, this little boy and this little girl arguing, like they're about 3 or 4 years old in preschool, and they're having an argument, like saying that one their mom told one of their moms told them that it was sprinkling outside, and the girl says, no, no, it's raining. It's not sprinkling. It's raining. It's sprinkling. No, it's raining. And then the girl pokes the says, no, it's like she points at him and pokes him in the chest, and he says, oh, you poked my heart. You poked my heart. It's so funny. It's so cute. And it's like, but then you go to the comment section and everybody's like, oh, he's mansplaining. This 3-year-old boy is mansplaining, or, you know, uh, oh, he's being manipulative, or or the other way around, oh yeah, she poked your heart. There's lots of girls who are going to do that to you. And it's just like these little kids, these little kids, but everybody's like so angry at each other. Like men and women are so angry at each other right now. And so that they can't even enjoy this video with little boys and little girls having this cute, silly argument. Uh, it has to become about mansplaining, or uh, you know um, um, whatever the opposite of that, or some red pill take on women, on, uh, whatever. It's like that. That's where we're at right now. So that's the atmosphere. And it wasn't that bad. It wasn't nearly like that years and years ago in 1988. Just okay. Let me go back and see. Uh, it's like Philip K. Dick novel with no humor or Christian love. Interesting. Yes, Jonathan. 1984. Oh yeah, Orwell's always relevant. Not too much Clown World and Huxley and Kafka. Too much Clown World, Huxley and Kafka to be 1984. That's tough. Kafka. It's Kafka-esque. It's is it Kafka-esque, or is it Orwellian, or is it Huxleyan, um, or is it Bradburyan? You know, let's not forget about that's a dark horse. Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. That's a good one. Leah says, personally, when they say, look over here, I'm always wondering what's really going on. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, True, a little different, but mostly the same. Controlled information. They have to confuse info to hide the real stuff. Brian says, like cramming for an exam. Yeah. We are much too divided to be anything useful. Good. Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Um, we can be useful in, just in smaller, but I think we're going to have to be. I think that secession of some kind is going to have to come around sooner or later. Jonathan asks, "Is all your writing now self-published?" No, uh, my fiction. Most of my fiction is not. Most of my fiction has been published through Terror House, but my nonfiction, yes. Armored Ghost. Sadly, we're not divided enough to balkanize. Well, it's like, yeah, there needs to be some added crisis. Like things need to get more dicey than they are. And I'm not wishing for that. I'm not like the worse the better. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm uh I'm not a terriblest. What's the word? I'm not one of those people who just thinks it's good when things get worse, because the worse things get, the closer we get to the crisis, and the closer we get to the crisis, the closer we get to the solution to the crisis. Well, I don't know if, I mean, there's no solution. This isn't, we're stuck in this imperfect world. There's no utopia. There's Utopia means nowhere after all. There's no utopia except in heaven. Armor says separation is the only way forward. Yep. Armored Ghost, do you like NYC? I wouldn't want to live there, but but uh, uh, but last time I visited, I enjoyed my visit. It was for the Terror House sort of shindig where I read part of my work at a place at a site that was in a section of Brooklyn. Brooklyn's really different, quite different from Manhattan. I know there are parts of Brooklyn that are kind of extremely trendy and hipsterish. But there were other parts of it that had more of like a neighborhood kind of feel to them. I know Brooklyn's mostly really liberal, but there are other places. There it seems like they're also it's an interesting place. I'll say that. What am I watching? As do you prep? No, I haven't. I'm not really a prepper. Maybe I should be, but no, I haven't really gone in for that. You know who are like the master preppers are the Mormons. I mean, they've been prepping for a long time. They have special shelters. They're always ready for a crisis. So when next time there's a big crisis, everybody's going to be pounding at their doors. Leah says we need to drop our petty BS and start working together. Well, I kind of agree with that. What the thing is that the things we disagree on are substantive in a lot of ways. So we can drop the petty stuff, like arguing over like whether a little boy is mansplaining. That's petty. But there are other things that are more substantive. Armored Ghost, Andy, will you have any follow-up videos about how you don't think things will be okay? Follow-up videos about how you don't think things will be okay. That video was good. Can you remind me of that one? That sounds like the opposite. Like, I'm against the black pill. You know that. I'm not I don't want to counsel despair. But I'm trying to remember when I said that things are not going to be okay. Like, remind me. Give me more context for that. Leah says, I don't want to live in a bunker and eat beanie weenies. I'll go down trying to make a difference. But make a difference for you, though. Thank you. If you don't, I mean, I'll go down trying to make a difference for you, though. Well, thanks. You all want that. The Mormons prep better than the Amish. I've never heard about the Amish prepping. I mean, I think the Amish just do their thing, don't they? They just farm and they just ride their buggies around and wear their beards and live their lifestyle. But the Amish, like the Mormons have special centers that they where they store all kinds of food and stuff. It's like part of their whole culture. Uh, True skills are one of the best preps. Yeah. How many true skills do I have? I mean, I'm not much of an outdoorsman. Um, I don't know. Uh, Skills like reading and writing. Yeah, that's right. That's right, baby. I got the skills. I got your skills right here. Yeah, I'm sure a very troubled community in some ways, though. Aren't we all? Well, I've heard about those like how the youth have a special day where they can go and do whatever they want for a couple weeks or something like that. But I've also heard that that's the sort of thing that gets blown out of proportion. So I don't really know. I don't know what I think about that. About I mean I don't really have a take on the Amish. I've never lived among them, so I can't say. I can't dispel myth from fact. Um, I did at one time live among another group of uh, uh, what were they called? They were a similar group of people to the Amish, except not as uh, they didn't live as strictly. Like they didn't ride horse-drawn carriages around and but they did have their own schools. God, what were they called? Um, and they like owned a store. We actually rented from them in a small town, and when we were living in a when my and I years ago were living in a small town in Georgia, in like the southern part of Georgia, kind of out in the sticks, but not that far from Augusta. There was a community that it was also it was another branch of the Anabaptist uh, community. Um, so the men had beards, but they would also just wear jeans and stuff. The ladies, still wore the old-fashioned garb. Um, okay, Dystopia snuck up on us. Yeah, I'll have to revisit that one. I'm trying to remember what my mindset was, what was going on with me when I recorded that video. Um, let me think it over. I'll revisit it. I remember going to an Amish Wonderland, an amusement park out in deep Pennsylvania as a kid. Hmm, that does sound interesting. Um, yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that I think disproved the whole pandemic. I don't even like to call it that. I get it gets on my nerves when people call it that because but I know you have to call it something, but come on, it wasn't. It was bullshit. Um, but they made us do all this stuff where they claimed the authority to make us do all this stuff that was ridiculous and stupid, and they shut everything down. But they left the Amish totally alone. The Amish just went on doing their thing, and nothing happened to them. It wasn't like they just started, you know. It wasn't like they were. Oh, we've got all these Amish in the emergency room, you know, on respirators. That was one of the things that just disproved that showed that it was all bullshit. Um, I think I remember somebody in the UK, maybe it was even Paul Joseph Watson, and I don't like everything that he does. Although I think some of his videos are interesting, or some of them are insightful, and some of them are funny. Uh, but I remember him talking about how like during the whole time that whole time they were still like keeping like mass immigration was still continuing at pace. They were still flying in all these immigrants all the time, and like like if they were so concerned about, oh, we got to lock everything down, everybody's got to be isolated. You know, obviously, um, obviously they wouldn't be doing that. Leah says, I lost my massage practice. I'm sorry to hear what happened. How did you lose it? Oh, you're telling me here. They told me to stop working for during that period. Yeah. I never got a stimulus or that happened to so many people. Yeah. Massages weren't essential, but liquor apparently was. Uh, in Russia, people just uh, open. Oh, you mean? I think you mean they opened their businesses with the shades pulled down. Right. Oh, so you lost your massage business, but then did you not? Were you not able to go back to it afterwards, or were you just not able to? You didn't get a stimulus, so you didn't get paid during that whole time, and then you had to probably move in with family members or whatever. My father's a general practitioner. I remember him having to trek out there when nobody else had to. Oh yeah, and debt. Yeah, the rich got richer, the poor got poorer. I mean that's something we know now. Um, but that's something else that blows my mind. This is like a wide range. This has become a very wide ranging discussion. Like something that I've been more aware of lately, and I'm no economist. I don't claim any kind of expertise on economic matters, but it's crazy when you look at studies of like wages that people got paid even into the depression years, um and certainly in the 40s or the 50s, let's say people got paid. You hear, oh, they only got $5,000 or $7,000. How's a man supposed to live on that? Well, inflation. When you factor in inflation, the standard wages were higher back then than they are now by a long shot. Um, and you know, things were cheaper. I mean, yes, still you have to factor in inflation, but cost of living was cheaper, housing was cheaper, wages were adjusting for inflation higher. Um, it was a time when, as I've said before, you could be a man who has a family, who's married, has a family, and this was part of what I was thinking while I was doing my necessary walking today. Like there was a time when you could uh, you could work a job, even if it's like not a great job, even if it's a job that's really challenging or you know uh, could maybe even a backbreaking type of job like a factory job, where you could work a job like that and get paid well enough to support a whole family, and you could work there for years you know and take pride in it. I mean, I was just thinking like I've never felt that kind of pride in my life. Not to get too personal here, but I've had jobs, um, but I've never like felt, I've never thought to myself, man, I'm, I'm getting it done. I'm important. I know my wife looks up to me. I know my kids look up to me because I'm the one who's going out there getting it done. I'm putting food on the table. I'm making sure our bills get paid. I could see how that would be something that, in the past, uh, a man could really pride himself on and feel good about. Um, of course, not everything, of course, some things were worse than they are now. Uh, it's always a trade-off. Things are always in flux. There are always complications, but that seems like something that was really good. It's like that phrase, never forget what they took away from us. It seems like that's one of the things that they took away from us was being able to uh, um, being able to have a job uh, that paid enough to support a family, and you know having uh, having society structured in such a way that made it so that the family was valued, and you know families would want to stay together because they wanted to stay together, not uh, you know uh, and I think that they I've gotten, you could say, more paranoid as as the years have gone on, because more paranoid in the sense that I used to just think, well, things happen, like stuff changes, and you move on, and then, society changes, and it's just part of what happens. And yes, some things just do change on their own, but it seems like other things. It seems like there was more. The more I look at it, the more it seems to me there was a deliberate effort on the part of the controllers to really destroy that that very functional society. Uh, you know, and that society had its problems, of course. Of course, there were men who you know got drunk and went home and beat up their wives, and I don't know, like, bad stuff happened within the families. But when you've got a good thing going, and there are bad things happening within that good thing, you work on reforming the good thing, making it better, addressing the problems that are there. You don't just destroy everything and say, there, we've solved it. Back in the 50s, we had the uh, there was all this orderliness, and it was so stifling, and now you're free to do whatever. And that's what they try to that's the propaganda that they've tried to tell us for all of my life. Like, because I was born in 71, after things had started falling apart, and certainly in the 80s and 90s things were more moving in that direction. Family was falling apart, marriage was falling apart. um you know Rise in teenagers, uh you know out of wedlock sex, and other disquieting social trends. But they all along, they were just trying to say, well, uh, it's better because it's free. It's free now. You wouldn't want to live in Leave It to Beaver, would you? And then you go and watch Leave It to Beaver, and you kind of think, yeah, I kind of would love. I would like to live in Leave It to Beaver. I'd kind of like to live in the Leave It to Beaver neighborhood. Um, that was an idealized portrayal of the society back then. But I mean, all in all, it was better, and they took it away from us. Uh, there's debt, no money, no family, but I'm still kicking good. Bartending, okay. Leah, you like I've got to admit, I took bartending class once because I was actually thinking to myself, and this wasn't long ago. This was like a couple of years ago. I thought to myself, bartending will always there all everybody there will always be a need for a bartender. So you could get a gig bartending, like you could work on a ship, you could travel the world, and like the ship would have a bar and people would drink on the ship. So you get a gig like that. It seems like it's one of those things that struck me. It was like nursing. Nurses are always needed. Uh, it seemed like bartenders were always needed. But after I took this bartending class, it was just so overwhelming. All the drinks that you had to learn, and there's more and more and more and more of them. And I just realized I would I would have I would not be able to handle it. I wouldn't be able to remember what kind of drink to make. Uh, how many dabs go into this type of drink, and this, that, and the other thing. I just wouldn't. It was just so overwhelming, and I just, even though I actually passed the test and became a qualified bartender. Um, I just thought, this isn't something I can't see myself doing this. I'm going to be so overwhelmed. It's going to be so stressful. I'm not going to know what I'm doing. I'm going to be harried. It's just not going to work. So God bless you for if it's something you could do. And like I said, it's probably a good gig to have. In these goings down, writes, I dug up an old book of yours, Notes Before Death. Great collection of essays. It's good to do a vid. Going to do a vid on it if it's cool with you. Of course. Of course. Yes, Notes Before Death. I'll have to remind myself of those. I've gotten to the point now I've written, when I write about subject matter, when I write nonfiction, I have to think to myself, have I written about this before? I might have written about this before. Am I repeating myself? It's one of those things where, you know, you don't want to start repeating yourself. If you're if you're talking to the same person and then they tell you the same story, like this week that they told you last week, but you kind of are too polite to say, "Oh yeah, you told me that already." So you just nod and listen to them tell you the same story again. So let's see. But yes, in these goings down, I look forward to your vid. Armored Ghost. Before Musk took over Twitter, you could be a professional smoothie drinker in the office. Make six figures doing nothing. Really? Um, in Twitter, in the offices of Twitter, you mean? Maybe so, but I would never want to work there. I would never want to work in the tech industry. I couldn't. Things lasted longer too. Yeah, I made $6.25 an hour in 2001. Says Jonathan. Make 15 now. Prices are 7 times. Yeah, I mean you get paid more, but but and for a while I was thinking that I was thinking, like I guess there was a time I had an era where I was more of a supply side economics, kind of guy, sort of a libertarian sort of guy, and I was just sort of like let the free market, let the market take care of things, inflation. And then when people complained about inflation, I just thought, well, yeah, uh, things are more expensive, but people get paid more now too. The dollar is just worth less, so it all balances out. But it doesn't balance out. That's what I That's what I've been discovering lately, is that, wages have gone up, but they haven't gone up as much as the cost of living has. And it's ridiculous how hard it is to find a place to live for cheap these days. It's ridiculous. Um, Especially when you're not very adept at making money, like some of us. 2015 was like another planet now. Yeah, I can see that in some ways. Like a janitor, I don't know what that's a reference to. Good feeling, yes, I think that's Evie. I think you're referring to the when I was talking about how a man could pride himself on having a job and taking care of his family. Hopper, what's your favorite Black Sabbath album? That's a curveball. That's a curveball. You know what? I don't know the names of any Black Sabbath albums. I'm not a big. I'm not. I don't. I'm not big on. That's not really my type of music. So, I'm sorry to disappoint you there. I know individual songs of Black Sabbath, and I know there was an Ozzy era, and I know there was a Ronnie James Dio era of Black Sabbath. Um, I remember, I remember being a kid, and like a lot of like the heavy metal kids, the heavy metal teenagers with their heavy metal mullets and stuff in the 80s. Like they'd wear their Dio t-shirts, and there would be a big devil, like this big devil figure on the cover. I don't know why it's making me laugh right now. It's just like that was like I don't. It must have been an album cover or something. But I can't answer you. I'm sorry. All seeing eye Pepe me after forever. Children of the grave. I know uh, Crazy Train. I know Crazy Train because that was Chipper Jones' song. I would go to Atlanta Braves games in the 90s, and they started doing this thing where each of the players, when they came up, they would have a song that they'd play. That'd be their song. And Chipper Jones's song was Crazy Train. Or they'd play just like a snippet of the song, to to I guess get them fired up as they walk to the plate. And Chipper's song was Crazy Train. So it was like third baseman Chipper Jones, dun it, dun it, dun it, dun it, I dun it, dun it. That's my that's my biggest Black Sabbath memory. So anyway, uh, Jonathan Paul says I have a state liquor serving license. You could be an owner of a package store, right? Or it's a liquor store, but maybe it's a southern thing. They call them package stores. Leah says I was a medical massage therapist and honestly did well during the housing crisis because were there a lot of people who were tense during that time and needed to needed a good massage to relax. I was just rewatch. That reminds me, I was just rewatching The Big Short the other day. It's a pretty good movie, The Big Short, about the housing crisis of '08. Um, yeah, you get better with practice. Oh, bartending. I bet you. I'm sure you do. It's like, I'm sure it's like, getting thrown into the deep end of the pool and learning how to swim, and like, it's if it's sink or swim, if it's swim or die, then you learn how to swim. But I just wasn't ready to thrust myself into the middle of all of that. Work in a brew pub, you just have to pour beer. That's a good idea. I could do that, but you don't need a bartending license to do that, do you? I mean that's but yeah, that's I could absolutely do that. And the funny thing is, I'm not a drinker at all. I guess that's actually better. Uh, that's probably, that means I get I keep the upper hand while I'm surrounded by people who are growing inebriated around me. Um, and two major lessons: don't put all your eggs in one basket, and I am so much more valuable than the sum of money I can earn. Those are good lessons. Those are good lessons. Yeah, we're all more than the sum of the money we make. And that's harder for some of us to learn than others. And I think for men especially, it's like, uh, you know, you feel like you just can't help but feel like a loser if you're not getting it done the way you want to get it done. And I've never succeeded at making a lot of dough. Um, I've done okay. I've had some jobs that paid okay. Lloyd in The Shining is the platonic ideal of a bartender. That's funny. Um, he's going down the book is on the disillusionment of your adolescence. The Old versus New Testament dissonance, yes, that's right. Your faith in early T.S. Eliot being your favorite era of poetry. Yes, I remember those essays. Yes, that's right. Andy was a Duran Duran fan, guilty as charged. Not Black Sabbath. um, Sabotage was like Prague Sabbath. That's not the Beastie Boys Sabotage, is it? There's a Sabotage by Black Sabbath. I know the Beastie Boys Sabotage, but that's not what you're talking about. Cost of living isn't super cheap in many places nowadays. Heard Arkansas, Mississippi are still cheaper. Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I mean, I think places I think you have to settle somewhere where it's not very desirable to live. Like less desirable places will be cheaper to live. I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense. And places where more people want to live, they charge more. I just like it's incredible to me that you used to be able to rent a flat in Soho for, I don't know, like during the CBGB days or whatever, during the punk rock days when New York was still, gross and grungy. Not that it isn't today, but it's been cleaned up a lot. I mean, where you could actually, where some schmuck could just live in Manhattan, uh, and be in a punk rock band or something. Um, like it's crazy how that's changed, how much that's changed, how many people have been priced out. Florida's been pricing higher, yes. Texas, middle of the road, but going up. Oh, Crazy Train is Ozzy? Okay. Okay. I thought that was Sabbath. Sorry. Paul Wright says, hi, Paul. Paul Wright says, I watch Valley Girl and Sid and Nancy Blu-rays. They're two of my favorites. I saw Sid and Nancy a long time ago. Uh, and it's funny how like the actor who plays him, he's been in so many things now, and he played
he played President Truman in Oppenheimer. It's crazy that you could play Sid Vicious and Harry Truman in a career. And he also played Commissioner Gordon in the Nolan Batman trilogy. Uh, you're already great at talking to people. Thank you, Leah. Um, yeah, I could chat. I could do the chatting part. All right. Um, I enjoyed our interesting time show you were on. Are you talking to me? I like your name there. Thanks. I've been on that show a few times, like maybe up to 9 or 10 times now. Just through the years. Uh, and it's always fun, and it's always good to be on. You should combine forces with Russell Brand. That's funny. I mean, I'm sure. Like, I mean, yeah, I would love to. Though. I would. It would help. It would help me out. I mean, it would help my visibility to join forces with Russell Brand. It wouldn't help Russell Brand's uh, that much. It wouldn't give him much more visibility, but he's got bigger things to worry about right now. Um, Armored Ghost UPS truck driving apparently pays okay for the work. Yeah, we are Stardust because no one wants to live there. Yeah, right. Um, he's going down. Cost of living needs to factor in who you're living next to. Right. Exactly. That's why you kind of. I mean, you could like live in the hood somewhere, where it's kind of dangerous. But I bet you could stay there for fairly cheap. Um, I wonder some like Indian reservations. If you're not a American Indian, can you live there? Because I know a long time ago, I spent a summer on an Indian reservation in South Dakota, and I remember things were pretty cheap there. But I don't know. Uh, Helper, It was easy and more informal to get a job in the 70s. Yeah, right. You didn't have to bring in your damn resume. You didn't have to tell sit behind a desk across from some idiot and have some deep conversation with them about where you see yourself in 10 years and stuff like that. You could just be, hey, you hiring right now? Sure, come on. Sure, why don't you show up tomorrow? I mean, things were more like that than they are now, for sure. And things going down. I remember when they were still using the term flat along with apartment in New York. When half the natives had to leave because of pricing. See, I always thought flat was just another name for an apartment. I thought flat was what they called an apartment in England. But I don't know. Jonathan Paul, best Andy interviews were on pole position. I would love to be on your show again sometime. Just contact me and we'll do it. We'll make it happen, Jonathan. Um, and how's your book doing, by the way? It's been a while since we've talked about it, but I hope it's selling well. Your book about the Russian Germans. Still want to have a beer with Andy someday. Let's do it. You're a Philly guy, right? Uh, maybe I'll find some excuse to go to Philly sometime. Can't think of why that would be. No, just a little Just a little Philadelphia joke there. Why the hell would I want to go there? You know, it's just it's sort of it's like the same kind of joke you'd make about Detroit or Cleveland. But I jest. If you have permission. Oh, you can stay on an Indian reservation if you have permission. Yeah, I'm sure it's some bureaucratic stuff. Rent a room from someone you know. Yeah. 70s fashion. Hey, yeah, I remember it well. Um, well, you should have seen my fashion in the 70s. You should have seen how my mom dressed me. Some of my little boy pics, some of the sweaters and corduroy pants, and I was pretty adorable, but I had some dorky clothes for sure. Yep, growing up in that time period. Jonathan, I will email you. You're in Amish land. Oh, really? You live among the Amish. Well, they make beer, don't they? Or am I getting them confused with somebody else? Or do they not drink? Is alcohol evil to them? I sort of thought that was maybe something that they did that they sold to the Gentiles, right? Don't they call the or do they or they it's they call them the English. You're the English. If you're a non-Amish, they call you the English. Isn't that right? Just like um the Mormons used to call non-Mormons Gentiles, just like the you-know-whos. Um, yeah, well, okay, you're in Amish land. Be uh, like tell me more, and we'll make it happen. Maybe make a video out of it. I'd like to do more interview videos. I enjoy interviewing people. It's just I don't know that many people, and I'm not that good at making friends or making connections. So, uh, but it just sort of breaks up the monotony when it's not just me blabbering all the time. When it's me and it's somebody else talking, it's a little bit. It's a different energy. It's a little bit more interesting. So wow, guys. Okay. Oh, there's more. They drink, but they don't brew. Enough trust funder. Hip brewery. Okay, gotcha. Amish horse buggies. They pull aside. You go around them carefully. Huh. Well, that's just one of the perils of. I mean, there are there are strengths and drawbacks to everything. Everything's a trade-off. That's something that Leah was talking earlier about things that you learn. That's something that I remember learning that was like a kind of revelation for me. Like, and I think I remember I learned this when I read actually after I read Thomas Sowell's book, The Vision of the Anointed. And that was a very influential book for me back in like 94 or so when I was 23. Took me further down the conservative route. But he talks in that book about how people like people often talk about how like in more absolutes like there's there's like this place which is great and this place which is terrible, but more often than not it's a question of trade-offs. Like this place is good in these ways and bad in these ways, and this other place is good in these other ways and bad in these other ways, and you just have to decide where the strengths are more and where the drawbacks are less. It's a trade-off, you know. everything in this life is a trade-off. We're not talking, that's this life, not the next life. The next life is different. In this life, things are much harder than the afterworld. In this life, you're on your own, to quote somebody. Okay, Drew to Miss Maximus asks, are there feds everywhere or just in the cities? Oh, I think they're everywhere. I don't live in a big city myself. I mean, I live in a medium-sized city. And I don't even know if you would call it I guess it's a city. But it's not, it's like it's a very manageable city to get around in. It's, what, I don't know how many people are in it exactly. It's the third biggest city in the state of Georgia, but significantly smaller than Atlanta. And there are feds out here. There are feds here. I mean, I was visited by them, and these the feds that visited me back in whenever it was, 2019 or whatever. The feds who came and knocked on my door, they were card carrying feds. They were not like, hello, fellow dissident right person. they were you know, they wore their fed suits, and they had their fed name tags, and they were feds all the way. Well, everybody, thanks for making this a much more interesting and much longer live cast than I thought it was going to be. I sort of thought this was just going to be a washout, but it turned out to be rather enjoyable. And I didn't really have as much of a point. I kind of went all over the place more than I usually do. But I think we covered a lot of ground, and it was interesting to talk to y'all. So stay in touch, and stay, and those of you who have who wanted to get together sometime, like in these goings down, let's again stay in touch. Y'all can email me anytime. Do whatever. I'm around, and I'm always around, and I'm not big time enough to have to ignore anybody's letters. If I ignore your email, it means I don't want to talk to you, but that's I'm sure I wouldn't do that with any of you. Pretty cool people. Okay, Drew, just a couple more comments. Drew says, before I moved to Georgia, I lived in a suburb of Charlotte where my dad also lived. He spoke some bad of Obama, and feds visited him on vacation in Kentucky. Really? He just badmouthed the president, and then the feds came to visit him in Kentucky and said, "Hey there, buddy, we heard you don't like our president. We wanted to just talk to you about that, if you don't mind." That's nuts. Leah, nice chatting with you. Yeah, nice chatting with you as well. Good to hear from you. Okay, everybody take care. Talk to y'all soon.